From the moment of fateful diagnosis 14 months ago until he left us, we saw grace and courage, dignity and humility, joy and laughter, and so much love and gratitude lived out on a daily basis that our cup does run over. How devastating the prognosis was as Ted left MGH with his family, waving to all, June a year ago. And that he lived the next 14 months in the way that he did, optimistic, full of hope, striving and accomplishing still. That he did that is in part a miracle, yes, but it's equally a triumph of the love and the care that Vicky, their children, and all who cherished him gave him in such abundance. In many ways, I think it's fair to say that this time, these last months, were a gift to all of us. The last months of his life were in many ways the sweetest of seasons because he saw how much we love him, how much we respect him, and how unbelievably grateful we are for his stunning years of service and friendship. And what a year he had, my friends. He accomplished more in that span of time than many senators do in a lifetime. Mental health parity, the Tobacco Act, a health care bill out of his committee. He spoke at the Democratic Convention. He wrote his memoirs. And he was there for the signing of the Edward M. Kennedy Service America Act and received the Medal of Freedom from the President and a knighthood from the Queen of England. I think many of you who were there would agree with me that perhaps one of the most poignant moments of all was when he was awarded an honorary degree from Harvard. His staff through the years was gathered in the front, and friends and family and admirers were scattered throughout the audience and filled the room, and Vice President-elect Biden was there. And you had no idea how hard Ted practiced and worked to be able to do that in the convention and his appearance at the White House, to make a speech that lived up to his high standards. He took the stage at Harvard, and for a few moments we all worried that it would be difficult to pull off. And then, before you know it, his voice began to soar and the pace picked up, and he inspired again with a stunning restatement of his purpose in public life. When it was over, the applause never wanted to end. He stayed on the stage, reaching out to us and we to him, and we wanted him to stay there forever. I first met Ted Kennedy when I was 18 years old as a volunteer for his first Senate campaign in the summer before I went to college. Then I met him again when I returned from Vietnam and we veterans encamped on the Mall in Washington. It was Ted Kennedy who had the courage to come down to the Mall one night and in a tent listen to us talk about Vietnam. We were controversial, but Ted broke the barriers and other senators followed. He worked his heart out for me in the presidential race of 2004, and he made the difference in Iowa. When we were down in the polls and I was slugging it out there, Ted brought his humor, his energy, and his eloquence to Davenport to help melt the snows of that state. There we were just 2 weeks before the caucuses, and his voice boomed out in this room, "You voted for my brother, you voted for my other brother, you didn't vote for me." And as the crowd roared with laughter, Ted bellowed, "But we're back here for John Kerry, and if you vote for John Kerry, I'll forgive you." "You can have 3 out of 4, he said. "And I'll love you, and I'll love Iowa." And let me tell you, Iowa loved him. We had a lot of fun there. He would open an event, and he'd come out and he'd say, "I want to talk to you about a bold, handsome, intelligent leader, a man who should not only be president, but who should end up on Mount Rushmore. But enough about me. Now I'll talk about John Kerry. After that agonizing Tuesday night in November when we fell so short in one state, there were Ted and Vicki on a Wednesday morning, sitting with Teresa and me in the kitchen in Boston as we prepared to concede. He was always there when you needed him. And so were Sonny and Splash, incidentally, when you didn't. Once, when we were at a Senate retreat, Ted had just spoken, and then Joe Biden got up to make a point and rejoined her. And as Joe got more forceful in his argument, he started to gesture, and he took a step towards Ted. Boom! Sonny and Splash were up on their feet, barking wildly. And I'll get it to defending Kennedy territory with a vengeance. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in history, we witnessed a Biden rhetorical retreat. And I have to tell you, one of my really favorite moments was Ted campaigning with my daughter Vanessa, who was here, campaigning in New Mexico. They were visiting an Indian reservation, and the tribal medicine man wanted to bestow a blessing. He took a feather, and he chanted, and he asked that Ted and Vanessa stand side by side and extend their hands and bow their heads. And with a sacred feather, he touched their feet, and he touched their foreheads, and he touched their hands, all the while chanting away. And when he finished, Ted leaned over to Vanessa and whispered, "I think we just got married." Well, you can imagine. Now, a couple of months later, she got a note from Teddy which said, "No matter what happens, we will always have New Mexico."